Hey, my buddy Dan, I don't know if you could see it, Marion, but at the very, very top, it looks like he's running this way. We should see him soon. We could do a quick interview with him. You see that little bump on top of that mountain? We are back for Spartan Up, the podcast, and we're going to learn all about my buddy Dan Gluck, who is a trader on Wall Street. I got to know him there, and he worked a little side hustle, and he's built this business, and he's going to teach us how we can do the same kind of thing.
Rolling.
We are here in the mountains of California with Dan Gluck of Health Warrior for Spartan Up podcast, and we're going to be talking business. Dan and I know each other from Wall Street days, at least a decade, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people have jobs like you did, like I did. And
still do.
You still do.
Still there.
And you decided to dabble and start a business he calls Health Warrior, Chia Bars. You've pivoted. I've watched you build this business. You've made some lefts and right turns, right, that weren't necessarily according to business plan. And I guess what we should dive into is it as easy as everybody thinks? Are you doing as well as everybody thinks, looking from the outside? And do you regret it?
Well, to answer your first question, first off, we met, it was in 2001, and the first time I met you, I don't know if you remember, but we met at a business dinner. Melanie introduced us, and you were running a few minutes late. And when I say Joe was running a few minutes late, we're in a fancy Italian restaurant, and Joe shows up wearing T-shirt, shorts, totally sweaty, huge backpack on, sits down, dripping sweat in this fancy restaurant, and he says, "I'm really sorry, I was, just on a little run." I said, "Oh, nice, where'd you go running?" He's like, "Oh, to the GW Bridge." You ran 26 miles that day on a Thursday night, just randomly. So that was the first time I met Joe. That was back in, I think, 2001, and we've known each other ever since. And, Joe and I share similar passions in terms of, health and fitness. I've dabbled in some racing myself, doing Ironmans and ultramarathons and marathons, not quite as accomplished as Joe, but I've always had a real passion for health and fitness, and working on Wall Street. Never was able to do anything sort of, by building a business necessarily.
Because you had a job.
Because I had a job.
Right.
And a good job, and I enjoyed it, and it was intellectually stimulating, and met some really good people along the way, and chose, to work with good people. But it was about 4 years ago when I discovered chia seeds. And learned about chia seeds in the book Born to Run, all about the Tarahumara Indians, knows the best endurance runners in the world. And one of my colleagues at work, Nick, who Nick Morris, he actually is the one who turned me on to chia seeds and said, "Hey, you're an ultramarathoner, you eat extremely healthy. What are these things?" And I said, "I have no idea." Long story short, started doing some research on chia seeds, started taking chia seeds myself, and really noticed a difference in how we felt. And they're extremely nutritious. They're off the charts, relative to any other food source. And that's how we started Health Warrior.
Are you eating them still? You eating them every day?
I still eat them religiously. I eat the seeds themselves, and then also we developed these bars,
which are quite addictive. So if you're going to try one of these chia bars, make sure you've got the ability to work on your addictions, because I eat 7 or 8 at a time.
And usually people are addicted to sugar, but these actually only contain 5 grams of sugar. They're 100 calories. Chia is the first ingredient. And so going back to your question, building a business has been, it's really been life-changing, frankly. I think it opened my eyes to a whole other world. I've met a lot of interesting people along the way. I've learned a lot about business. I've learned a lot about myself as well. And sure, there's a lot of challenges. But they're different challenges, and they're welcoming challenges that only make you a better person. So our first run, when we did a manufacturing run, we were all excited. We did about 20,000 bars. We get all the bars, and they had the wrong wrapper on them. They were clear.
Wow.
So
everything that can go wrong does go wrong.
Everything that goes wrong can go wrong, and you just need to learn to sort of bounce back from some of those problems. And it's just like in training.
Did you at that moment, did you say, maybe we made a mistake? This is going to be a lot harder than I thought?
It's funny. I think as an entrepreneur, you always go through sort of, that thought process of, what am I doing? This is silly. I just, probably just blew all of my money, my investment. Some of my friends invested in the company, and I blew all their money, and this isn't going to work. But then there are moments where I really think this is going to be one of the biggest food companies on the globe. I mean, right now the state of the food industry it's a disaster. It's a mess. And you look at the companies like General Mills and Nestle and Hershey's, sales are declining. They're selling just food that are filled with processed food and fillers and high in sugar, and it's a real epidemic. And so
what's good about that though is maybe that will force them to change their ways.
I think it is. You're beginning to, in fact, just today, McDonald's announced that in the next 2 years, they're only going to buy antibiotic-free chicken.
Wow.
Now, that's a tiny step in what McDonald's is doing, and I can't really say I support what McDonald's is doing. But, I do think you're seeing some changes, and I think you're also seeing a lot of these big food companies, they're being forced to acquire smaller, health-oriented companies like ourselves. Right. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily our goal of selling to a company. I want to build this.
Coca-Cola, right? They're buying water companies, coconut water companies.
We both were investors in Zico coconut water, which eventually sold to Coca-Cola. And, obviously that's not the end game. I mean, I think obviously we all do things, in some respects to put food on the table and have a, financial success. But I do feel good that I'm selling something that is genuinely good for people. And, as I said, this bar has 5 grams of sugar. You look at some of the other, brands out there and they have 22. So it's daunting at times. And as I said, I lay awake at night sometimes saying, what are we doing? But then, when you really step back and you think of the longer term picture and the big picture, I know what we're doing is going to work. And I feel very confident in the ultimate success of the company and just the experience that I'll have.
I think it's going to work because you have a why, right? That's a buzzword nowadays, but you're passionate about it. So it's not real. It doesn't sound like it's about the money because you have a job.
Right.
It's simply you want to do something good.
It really is. And it's really, as I said, opened up my eyes to that there are other, sort of ways of also making a living.
Sure.
And it feels good. We get a lot, of emails from people saying, great? It's the best. Diabetics saying, hey, I actually can eat your product because it's low in sugar. This is incredible.
Sure.
And, it's really rewarding when we see those emails come through.
Let's take a break. You and I do a couple hundred handstand push-ups, and then we'll come back.
Sure. Sounds good.
All right.
I hope you're not sitting still while you listen. If you are, you better get a burpee break
in. Those handstand push-ups are tough on the shoulders. Those are really
Especially
hard.
after I just biked for 2 hours.
By the way, for anybody out there listening, if you hear a dog that is making some funny sounds, it's because the dog is dying for a Chia Bar.
It's not my stomach or Joe's. It's just the dog down here.
The dog wants the Chia Bar. So I feel like sometimes, I don't know if you agree with this, I feel like I almost can't communicate with someone. I can't communicate very well with someone who hasn't started their own business or run a business because they just don't understand how complex it is and all the things that might not make sense to the layperson, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real interesting mindset that you have when, you're an entrepreneur and really, your business is on the line every day and you are accountable. And I think a lot of people who are just employees and show up and work for someone, they don't really appreciate all the hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that went into someone building a business.
So you've gone through this battle, or you're going through this battle. What tips would you give the people listening? One, to get motivated to maybe start their own business, right, or just be better at their job. But two, to I don't know, be successful at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the cliche sort of advice that everyone has is follow your passion. But, as cliche as it is, I do think there is a lot of merit to that. Now, I think sometimes you could follow your passion and that might not necessarily work out. But for the most part, it usually will in terms of it'll make you a happier person.
That doesn't mean chase a woman around.
Sometimes it does,
Right.
And it ends in a happy marriage. So, but I think, doing something that you really believe in and, sort of just following your interests usually leads to something that you're doing, and you're happy and you're enjoying doing.
So here's a question on that, though. I have come across tons of people in my life that, I'm not doing anything because I'm not sure if I want to do and it doesn't really fit. Are you saying if you can't find something you're passionate about, just sit idle until something
I think you got to force yourself sometimes into uncomfortable positions,
which might lead to the thing that you're passionate about.
Exactly. Right? You got to sometimes dig under rocks and climb under barbed wire. Right. I mean, I think that's the whole mentality of the Spartan race.
Yep.
And I think that's something that really rings true. And as far as the other advice, and again, nothing that sagely, but it's really just about perseverance and working hard. I mean, the food industry, it's not a difficult industry. We're not sort of dealing with artificial intelligence engineers. We're not sending rockets to space. We're not working on driverless cars. We're making a Chia Bar.
Right.
It means something, but it's all about outworking, and out hustling.
But there's employees that quit. There's employees that compete against you right across the street.
Sure.
Right. There's factories that blow up. There's packaging that comes out. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong.
Without a doubt. But it feels good when you get those wins.
Yeah.
You got to celebrate those wins, and you can't really focus on the negatives, and you just got to celebrate the wins and move on from the losses.
Keep moving forward. Yeah. And you have partners.
I do. So one of my colleagues, Nick Morris, who you're a friend of as well, we started this together. And he works in Wall Street with me, and we sort of were working on this at night and sort of staying up until the office till midnight or so, trying to figure out building the business plan, trying to source chia seeds, calling South and Central America. And during the day, during trading hours, we're getting calls from South America, which we couldn't really take, obviously. So eventually, once we really decided that we wanted to get this business going and up and off the ground, we brought on one of my college friends, Shane.
Who's great, by the way.
He's an amazing guy. He went to Colgate with me. He was a Division I swimmer and just a great guy, interesting background. He was looking to do something entrepreneurial and something different after working in law, actually. And he joined us, and he's now running the company full-time. We've got about 25, 30 full-time employees. We're selling in 8,000 stores.
Wow.
And we're actually rolling out a new product tomorrow.
Wow.
So I'll let you know the first.
Yeah, what is
actually it? It's a new bar. It's a protein bar. Chia is the first ingredient, plant-based protein, and it's got 10 grams or 11 grams of protein in it. With chia, quinoa, and pea protein as the first ingredients.
I love it.
All natural, gluten-free, vegan.
And the market's giving you good feedback? They like it?
Well, we're announcing it tomorrow, so we'll find out.
But I mean, you've done some tests.
We've done some taste testing, yeah. And I think a lot of people like our product because of the 100 calories. We always say that Americans are overfed and undernourished, and we think the 100-calorie bar is something that provides them with a lot of nutritious, just in a low-calorie bar. But one thing that a lot of people are looking for also is more of a meal replacement, higher protein, and so now we have a different offering.
Nice. One final question: favorite workout? Or exercise?
Trail running.
Just trail run. Just go on the trail.
I just get lost on the trails, and if you look around, as I said, I live a couple houses down, and this is my training ground. It's my treadmill right there. So it's incredible.
That's a hell of a training ground.
Yeah.
You're one lucky man. Health warrior.
Yeah,
Good
thanks,
stuff.
Joe.
Yep.
Hey, gotta say, Joe was so excited to get to that interview that he didn't tell us who we are. We got Marion making sure we do everything right, who reminded me that Joe did not introduce us at the start. We have retired Colonel Nye, Tim Nye here, Sephra, the wild woman.
Oh, thanks.
Johnny.
Dr. Johnny.
And Big Joe.
And Joe.
Yeah.
Not too big.
So Dan Gluck, that was really cool.
Dan's a good man.
Yeah.
We got to know each other on Wall Street. We spent many years together, and the guy that got me onto Wall Street originally had said it's going to be very tough to leave because obviously you make good money, but it doesn't always feel purposeful, right? It doesn't feel like you're doing something to change the world in a positive way, and so he diverted as we learned and did it successfully. Which I think a lot of people hold back from doing stuff like that because they're afraid, well, if they're not 100% focused on it, it might not work.
Yeah. And especially when they already have success at this one thing, to take the risk and go do something else. And the other great thing with it is that it wasn't all success. I love when he said the very first run, the packages were clear. And he's like, this is the opposite of what I want,
wrong.
right? And everything that can go wrong does go wrong. And the idea that you just gotta keep digging in and hustling. And I loved when we finally figured out that it was the dog.
It was the dog.
I kept looking.
You thought it was me. You thought I was out of breath.
Well, and it's funny because if you're listening to this rather than watching, Joe's looking down and he's like, I'm thinking, what's going on? Like he's tired. Is he whipped? There's a dog under the table. He was scratching. So I thought like you're leaning down and wheezing. So,
no. But
hey, if you're hustling, you got to be tired. So
I watched this company grow from the very beginning. And I remember I was in an airport, I don't know how many years ago, and I finally saw the right packaging, and I said, you know what? I'm so proud that he's pulled it off. I bought like 12 coconut-flavored Health Warrior bars, and I ate them, and I sent them pictures of the wrappers on the floor. And I'm not suggesting anybody eat 12 of them in a row.
But they are delicious.
But they are good.
I'm sorry, the question, he did go off and do something, and I think that can transfer to everybody else, but is it, he's starting at Wall Street. You started at Wall Street. That is an intense, pressure-packed place that is full of high achievers, kind of tier one people. are they more prone to be able to go off and do this in success? Can anybody do it? Can those lessons transfer? Or are these guys, you guys, already...
Let me just give you a little... So people on Wall Street, yes, type A, yes, aggressive, but they don't necessarily know how to build things, right? You can do the finances, you can do the trading, but to actually build a business from scratch and run it is a whole different animal. And so it's impressive. And by the way, guys on Wall Street and women on Wall Street are very impressed when they go and see somebody pull it off and build a business because it's a different animal.
And a different language. I love when you guys talked about if you're not an entrepreneur, it's real hard to be around entrepreneurs because you just start to tune out because there's that common language, right? Yeah. And I remember being at a business dinner, and I was with two guys. One had just opened a new car dealership, but he hadn't been able to sell the property at the old one yet, still owned it and was carrying it. The other guy was the biggest developer in town that had just bought the next 2 concessions over but hadn't had them zoned yet. And they were complaining about, oh my God, what have we done? And I said, you guys couldn't do it any other way. I mean, if you weren't standing in the plane about to jump out, not 100% sure your chute's going to open, you wouldn't be happy. Right. And that's that entrepreneur language, right?
Yeah, you got to have a stomach for it, my father used to say.
Yep, and actually, like where we're standing right now, Brooklyn Boulders, my twin brother, Jesse, was a co-founder, right? And so in the beginning, he went to Babson with all these guys.
Are we getting a good rate on this place?
Yeah, they're great. They're so great. But it was a rock climbing gym. So my brother came in and he's like, well, what entrepreneurial aspects can we bring to it? How can we make it a community center? How can we scaffold onto it and make it more than just a rock climbing gym? So they built this collaborative workspace, active collaborative workspace. So it's work, life, play. Physicality stimulates creativity and innovation. It's that same sort of thing about entrepreneurship is like you can take building these walls and getting this thing together. It has 100,000 complexities that no one thinks about. But then even beyond that, you have to make it more interesting and adaptable and applicable to your audience.
And then make sure customers actually show up and pay.
Yeah, paying's a good one. But the thing that I love about this guy, obviously, is that he focused on seeds, right? And so at 12 o'clock at night, he's calling Central and South America looking for Salvia hispanica, or it's the Latin name for chia seeds, part of the mint family, square stem. It's really important. It's a beautiful flower.
This is the time and place to talk seeds right here.
Is it the time and place to talk seeds? Well, it's funny that you said that. Actually, Joe, early holiday gift. I have a present for you. Spartan seeds. You'll know at the harvest.
Nice.
Okay?
Oh,
Joe, here's one. Ready?
This is Leonidas, freeze dried.
Tomato.
You'll know
what did you say?
Harvest.
Nice.
Look, spear throw tomato.
Nice.
Look, there's a little Spartan.
And what's the other one?
Okay, and then we have what do we have here? We have kettlebell pepper. Oh, like Leo.
I like it.
Okay, or butternut squash your opponent. Or you guys can go to our Instagram, right? Spartan Up and name your own seed packet for Spartan Seeds. Nice. Right?
Spartan Seeds.
Right?
Spartan Seeds. They don't need sun or water.
Yeah. No, because it's like a plant your own victory garden.
Water them with sweat and blood. They'll be perfect.
And tears, salt, good.
So you've already mentioned Instagram. Where else can they find out more about us?
I believe YouTube and iTunes and at SpartanUpPodcast.com. So plant your seeds. See you there. Blessings. Thank you for watching another epic story of success. If you like our message, please share Spartan Up with your friends and subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you catch our show, maybe in the woods. Spartan Up is brought to you by Spartan Race. To find a race near you, visit Spartan.com.